Today we are talking about the new moon in Scorpio and the opposition that it's making to Uranus. This is the third month in a row that we've had an aspect from the new moon to Uranus. And Uranus is about independence and opportunities, as well as self-reliance and freedom. And so this is talking about some sort of block or obstacle we have in the way and how we can break free. And so it's all coming up. Hi everyone, it's Donna Stellhorn, your practical astrologer, here to talk to you today about the new moon that is in Scorpio. It's on November 4th, and it's making an opposition to Uranus. So Uranus is this really interesting planet that we haven't known about actually that long. I didn't look it up, but I think it was discovered in the late 1700s. And so one of the things that Uranus is about is breaking free or doing things in a different way. Uranus is a planet of sudden change. It asks us to do something different, something where we can break free of a set of rules that we have, or some sort of obstacle that is external that's in our way. So we are looking at, continuing to chip away at whatever is holding us back. Now, 2 months ago, we did the trine. And so that is that some easy little blocks we were able to get through. And then last month we were doing the inconjunct, which meant that we needed to shift or pivot how we were doing things so that we could get past a block. But now we are at the biggest block, the final block, and that is the internal block. This is the psychological thing that's holding us back. That is, what's in our story, or what is in our upbringing that is causing us not to reach for the door, because that door may not be locked as much as we think. So I think the first thing to think about is how much you like change anyway. It's oftentimes that we will tell ourselves that we really do like change, but then we don't do much different from day to day. Scientists tell us that we will think 90% of the same thoughts and do maybe 85, and I'm making that number up because I can't remember that one, but 85% of the same things that we do day after day. And so, just in my own life, if you tell me, hey, let's do something new, I get very excited. But do I actually do it? Not so much, right? Because the tried and true and the familiar is what we gravitate towards. And so here comes Uranus, and Uranus is an outer planet. It is considered a malefic, and so it is something that is saying that you're stuck and you need to break free. And so when I'm looking at it in my own life, I am looking at what types of routines that I have, because whatever the routine is based on my thinking process. See, with a Scorpio new moon, we are trying to have new thoughts, new internal guides, but we may not be able to define what those are, so we look at what we're doing externally and see where we feel blocked. Now, because the Uranus is lining up, there is an urge for freedom, an urge to do something differently. And so we may start with that and say, do we like our job? Do we like the relationships that we're having? Oh, do we like how we're meeting people, how we're connecting, the effectiveness of that? Do we like how we get through the day? At the end of the day, are we really happy with what we did? Or are we kind of saying, oh, I shouldn't have done this, or I shouldn't have done that? So we need to see where the blocks are, because then we can use Uranus to drill our way through. Now, as we're pushing against things, we're going to push against people as well. So remember, this is a universal aspect. We're going to talk about what it means for your sign in a few moments. But initially, recognize that everybody is feeling a little stuck, because Uranus is suggesting some sort of change. So that means that some people in your life could be really irritated or easily pushed over into irritation. And that means also, the people you run into, the person at the grocery store, the person in line at the bank with you, those people, they may not be aware that they are struggling with this. They just know that they want freedom. They want things, obstacles out of their way. And so they can become impatient or erratic. And so this causes us to say, all right, we need to make changes in our own life and still be compassionate towards others and what they might be going through. So I think all of this starts by, taking some time to be centered, to know where you feel blocked, and to actually say to yourself, it's okay that I feel blocked because now I realize what it is, and to not consider that as some sort of criticism on yourself or being hard on yourself. Even if you have slipped back into an old pattern, Uranus is here to help us break the pattern. So we just say, thank you, universe, for helping us out, for bringing us this opposition. So then you might make a list of the things that you would like to change. You might say, on one side of the list, the reasons you don't want to change. And then the other side of the list could be the reasons you do want to change. And then it's kind of a little pro and con list. One of the things that is very interesting about this opposition is it is in fixed signs. So as much as there is this underlying desire to make a change, the fixed signs say it's not practical to change, it's not efficient to change, it is, it's easier and more comfortable to stay as we are. Now, of course, there is also the possibility, because this is the opposition in fixed signs, that we don't want to change, but that the universe is suggesting it. That the universe is saying, no, we're going to impose a change to help you out. Remember, our souls are here, all of us are here, so we can grow, so we can learn. And so we made an agreement when we came here that, there would be times where we would get a little nudge from the universe to help move us along. And so if you are saying, everything's perfect, I don't want anything to change, that's kind of the universe's cue to step in and change something in your life. So I really recommend finding things to do differently, because that uses up some of the energy and then it's self-directed rather than having the universe suggest something. Now, that said, if you're super adventurous and you want to throw caution to the wind, tell the universe to bring it on and you will have an adventure. So one of the best ways to start this is to recognize how much of our lives we are on automatic pilot. And that is, again, and this, I really struggle with this because, there is this Virgo / earth sign / 6th house part of me that wants to do the things in the most efficient manner. You probably do too. And so trying new things all the time and, branching out can really muck with efficiency. But that said, this energy is really beneficial to help us become present, to ask ourselves as we're doing our day-to-day things, is this the best thing for me to be doing right now? Is there a better way to do it? Or if I made a change, would it make it more interesting? Would I learn more? Would I meet more people? Would I connect better? So this is the first step. I'm getting ahead of myself. The first step is to be present, to be aware of what you're doing on a regular basis. Now, there's an added benefit to all of this, and this is because that our souls are working on multiple planes. So we're here on this planet, but our souls are eternal, and so we're also operating on this, what a lot of people call the Akashic field. So that is this plane of existence where souls that you might not be seeing face to face, but you may be feeling the energy. And this is where we get the idea of the collective unconsciousness or collective consciousness. Both of those are accurate, where, suddenly, well, let me say it this way. You know how when you go to the grocery store and you're walking around and there's nobody in line, and you're filling your basket and then suddenly you say, you know what, I'm going to go check out. And you do, and the line is to the back of the store. And the reason is because the collective consciousness all said at once, it's time to check out. And so that's where we have this psychic ability all the time. So the added benefit of making changes in your life is that when you do, you become more visible in that collective consciousness field. And so this is why, when you decide to move, then all the people who are at your current location come out and say, oh my gosh, we should be friends. We should have dinner. And you're like, where were you guys? Where were you when I really wanted to talk to you? Or when you decide you're going to go on vacation, and then suddenly your desk is piled high with different projects and things you have to do, and you are just rushing to get done. It is because you become more noticeable. So every time you make a change, every time you break free of a habit or a pattern, you become more noticeable, and that means that potentially more opportunities can come to you. And that is opportunities for love, friendship, collaboration, business opportunities, financial opportunities, all of these things. So that's the reason Uranus exists. It is to break us free, but the benefit is that then we are more noticeable. Our soul, our essence is more noticeable, and then the opportunities can find us. Now, to add to this, Venus is at 29 degrees of Sagittarius, and 29 degrees is a critical degree, and that means that it's the very last moment of Venus being in Sagittarius. And while Venus is a fairly fast planet and will hit Sagittarius about once a year, it's still this energy of we need to finish something. We need to have a little bit of adventure. We want to have a little bit of fun. And so there is this sort of adventurous spirit right now with this new moon energy, which is going to last this 2 weeks, where we want to try something new. And that could be anything from something small, like trying a new food or going to a new store or things like that, or maybe asking somebody out who you find attractive, or perhaps you are, focused on a new business venture. So this is about trying something new. We also have a few eclipses coming up. I'm going to be releasing those videos as soon as I can, because eclipses bring big change into a person's life, and generally it is something that is more external happening to you. That is if you're hit by the eclipse, and so you do want to be prepared. Usually a week or two before, you have an inkling of what it's going to be, especially you guys who are listening to this, because you're already in tune with the energies. And so it's really important to get a handle on what the eclipse can be so that you can capitalize on the energy. So we're going to now go sign by sign, and that means that it's a good idea to listen to both your sun sign and your rising sign. If you don't know your rising sign, there is a link to a PDF in the description where you can get different ways you can get your chart, or you can email me and I'll send you a copy of your chart. And I just want to take a moment to thank you all for listening to these videos and clicking that like button. I really appreciate it. I also do readings, so if you're interested in that, there is a link to my schedule and my website and all that in the description. Also, I'm considering doing some live streaming or doing some classes by video conference. If you're interested in anything like that, drop me a line and let me know. Okay, let's go sign by sign. Okay, Aries natives, you guys are doing this new moon in your house of money from other people. Yay, that's fantastic. So this is also in your house of intimacy, power, control, and a place where you can feel overwhelmed. And so this might give us a clue about where you're needing to break free, because Uranus is going through your house of finances and money, and then the new moon is lighting up your house of money from other people. And so this is this idea that you have your money and they have their money, and then you trade your services or your products or something so you can get some of their money. And so that's where you're doing a collaboration or a partnership or things like that. And And so this might be that you might have this internal block, this idea to say, I want to just make money myself. I want to do it all alone. I want to be the one that is the, in charge of my money completely, when this is suggesting that a collaboration of some kind could be helpful. And that collaboration could just be that you are hiring a service to help you out, or that you are working with a mentor or something like that. This also could say that it might be outside your comfort zone to do investing of different types. And so this is about maybe gathering some of that knowledge. Remember, we're looking at Venus as well, and it's in your house of knowledge. And so gathering knowledge for how to do the investing, or to look at how you make decisions about investing. A lot of people are really good about getting into the market, but they're not great at timing when to get out of the market. And so that is all based on your decision making. And so we've talked about decision making on this channel before. And so I'll put a link to a great book on that in the description. Now, with this new moon, you're also doing it in your area of debt. And so this could mean that you are looking at how to repay debts, different ways to get down lower interest rates, or to maybe negotiate the amount that's owed, or things like that. So this is a really strong 2-week period for you for money. So when we look at your relationships, Mars is making an out-of-sign sextile to Venus. Now, an out-of-sign sextile means that things are not quite as obvious. And so you might have to dig a little bit to figure out who's going to help you, or if this is about a love relationship, because you have a great house of intimacy right now. If it's about connecting with someone, it might be the person who's less obvious, like they're not so typically your type, but you start to talk to them and you find out you have a lot in common, and that really boosts the attraction. When it comes to home and family, you're pulling energy from that moon in your house of resources. And so there is some energy here about doing something different when it comes to family finances, as well as connecting with family members in a new way, or connecting with family members you don't normally speak to, because we're trying to do something different with that opposition to Uranus. And so that might be collaborating with a family member that, lives on the other side of the country, or maybe it's a second cousin or somebody like that. And this also could mean that you are pulling in family finances from a different source, or doing your family finances very differently. When it comes to your money, you are pulling money from that Venus at that critical degree in Sagittarius. And so there is a real desire to like swing in and scoop up something, and it like to take some super bold, adventurous action to do something. And that's kind of harmonious with your sun sign or rising sign anyway. And so that's where you have to be a little bit aware. This is a fleeting energy. So if you feel that you're very rushed, you feel like, oh my gosh, I have to jump in and grab this money now, some of that is because of the Venus. Now, that said, it is going to help you to take some sort of adventurous action, to do something different, because that's the theme of this 2 weeks. So this would be that there's something connecting your money to things that are foreign, or something that has some sort of legal requirements, or that's something that is connected to education. So if you're looking at it, some sort of money-making scheme or investment that is connected to something like this might be the direction to go. When it comes to money from traditional investments or from your own business, you're doing fantastic energy. You have a full 8th house, and you're doing a semi-sextile between Venus and Pluto, and an out-of-sign sextile between Venus and Mars. And so that means that you can find the opportunities and actually direct the money into your accounts. So it's perfect. So that means that you really do want to put your energy and focus on money making ideas right now, because this is something that over the course of a year, this might be the best 2 weeks you have for doing things like this. So if you have planted seeds in the past, you can capitalize on those things, or you are planting seeds now for a harvest in the future, but this is the time to work on that. Now, when it comes to money derived from career, Venus is making a sesquiquadrate. Yes, a sesquiquadrate to, I had to look, to Uranus. And so they are talking to each other. Now, this is, there's two types of there's two types of sesquiquadrates, and this is the more difficult of those two. So a sesquiquadrate is already difficult, and now we have the more difficult type. And so that means that you know, to get this more money, you have to do something that's a little bit on the extraordinary side or outside of your comfort zone. And so that might be that you need to really pitch this to your boss if you're looking for a raise, or if you're working more hours, it's probably not a great shift, or maybe you already have a second job and so now you're working 18 hours a day or something like that. So you may not want to capitalize on this energy because the other energy is so strong for creating passive income sources or doing a side business, but your own business. But you can, if this is your only source of income, you can use this, but you have to make the leap. You have to do something that might be way outside your comfort zone to get that more money. When it comes to risky investments, and these are the things that take a lot of time, energy, or money to get going, or things that we might consider gambling. Venus is making a semi-square to the sun, and there's two types of semi-squares, and so this is the more irritating or difficult version of that. And so that is that you can make money. What we want to see first and foremost is an aspect, because that means that the money out here can get into your account. But the problem is that this is an irritating aspect, which means it's outside of your comfort zone. It's things you don't want to do. And I would say, looking at this chart, that it's probably around legal matters, reading prospectuses, and also, like going through applications and things like that. It seems like a lot of legal stuff to do to get what you want. Okay, Taurus or Taurus rising, you guys are doing this new moon lighting up your house of relationships and making that opposition to Uranus in your own sign of Taurus. And so what we have here is a great deal of focus on making connections to other people. And this may not be something that you really want to do right now. I mean, this is fixed energy and you're fixed energy. And so, you might have plans already and you don't want to be interrupted by running after people or even just accepting invitations from people. You might just be saying, I don't know if I want to connect. But when you're doing energy like this, the more success you're going to have is tied directly to other people. And that means the more people you meet or the more people you connect with, the more opportunities you get. So the thing that you're breaking free of is your prearranged plans, the things that you said you were going to do, or the things that make you feel very comfortable. That's where you might say to yourself, I want to be a little uncomfortable. I know that sounds funny, but I do a lot. I like the philosophy of Stoicism, which in that is about putting yourself out of your comfort zone so that you can, I don't know, it just gives me the sense that that I can do things that I didn't think I could do. It is more of an adventure. I can explore different sides of myself and connect with other people. So pulling yourself out of your comfort zone is important at this time. And it is so anti-Taurus that I know that can be a struggle. So, but Uranus has been going through your sign for years, and it still has years to do just to get you used to going towards something that perhaps, on face value, you didn't want to do. And this month, or for the next 2 weeks, it's about connecting with others. Now, the interesting thing too is that Venus at a critical degree is in your house of resources, which means that if you take that adventurous leap, you could gain some resources, and that could be, more time to spend on things, but also people's expertise or their actual cash to help you move forward. So you do want to capitalize on that as well, and that is, you deep down probably know the adventurous thing to go and do to get this, and so you should. And if you don't, then it's time to be quiet and do a meditation and see what the universe has for a suggestion. So when it comes to relationships, you are doing extraordinary energy. This is the best time that you've had in a while to go and connect to someone for a love relationship, partnership, friendship. Venus is making I have to look. Venus is making a semi-sextile to Pluto, and also an out-of-sign sextile to Mars. And so that means that you can make a connection that really does last. Now, the semi-sextile, of course, means that it's a little uncomfortable. It means having to do something different than you planned. But as I was saying before, that's where you can find all of the benefits. So right now, if you're looking for love, if you're looking for friendships, now is the time to actively pursue that. Call up someone and say, let's have lunch, let's have coffee, something like that. And then the universe will open up other avenues for you as well. When it comes to home and family, it's pulling energy from the sun in that house of relationships. And so that is, maybe you are inviting people to your home. Maybe you are bringing someone from the outside home to meet your family. Perhaps this means that one of your kids is bringing home, a boyfriend or girlfriend. And so you have outside sources coming into your dwelling or to the family. And, and that can even include professional people, somebody to come in and paint the house or something like that. So, but the outside influences are coming in right now. When it comes to your money, you're pulling money from Mercury, which now is direct, yay, and it's completely out of its shadow at this point, and so everything's copacetic with that. It's right below the horizon, which means that if we were looking at the sky, we couldn't see Mercury because it has set. It is below the horizon, and so it's in your house of work, and so it's a little bit of working behind the scenes with some expectation that something's going to emerge from this. And because it's very late degree, I would suggest that there's something that you're finishing, that you're something that you're putting together to announce to the world. It's not quite done yet. Maybe over the next 2 weeks you are getting it ready to launch, but and usually in a new moon we are very concerned with getting something launched, getting like starting this new thing, and then when we get to the full moon, like ta-da, here it is. And so perhaps that's the cycle that you're on, if you can finish something in the next 2 weeks. But if this is something you're working on, maybe it's time to look at the blocks and what is holding you back from launching. When it comes to money from traditional investments or your own business or a family business, Mercury is making a trine to Jupiter, and so you have very good prospects for having something happen. Additionally, that Venus at the critical degree is in that house, and so that means that this is the time to lean in on your business. If you have, you may be doing this as a side business and you might have a ton of other things to do, but maybe put in your calendar that for the next 2 weeks, you are really going to focus on getting things done for your business, getting your website done, get your logo done, launch your products, things like that. Because this is a direct line where money can come to you. It's the same with investing. You might be looking at different types of investments and things like that. This is a time to lean in, get your investigation done, and make your decision. So all of that is really great for you making actually possibly far more money than usual. Now, when it comes to money derived from career, then you are kind of status quo. The ruler of your money house is in a house of work, and so that says that you are working hard, and there's no aspect happening between Mercury and Neptune, so therefore we don't have extra money coming into your account. So it's likely you're making about the same money as usual. Now, we are doing a very strong Uranus aspect this time, and Uranus does rule your career. So getting a new job, breaking free of an old position and going into a new position, getting a new team, all of these things are very possible. And those can lead to more money in future pay periods. And so that's where you should put your energy. I shouldn't say should. You could put your energy. I'm not trying to dictate to you. You have choice. Okay, when it comes to risky investments, and these are the things that take a lot of time, energy, or money to get going, or are very speculative, Mercury is the planet that we look at for you, and it is direct, it's moving forward at a good speed, but it is below the horizon, and it's in that house of work, which is about preparation, organization, efficiency, and things like that. So a lot of the focus is about looking at the details. And so I do think that you can make more money this time, but the focus needs to be on, how you're working the business, or how you're streamlining it, or what you need to delegate, or things like that to make it really profitable. Okay, Gemini natives, you guys are doing this new moon in your house of routines, work, health, and just your daily life. And it's making that opposition to Uranus in your house of spirituality. And so one of the things that you can do with this energy is to add the spiritual component into your daily life. And that is that, right now you might be quite focused on just getting through your list of things to do every day. But maybe it would be beneficial to stop and, energize a feng shui cure by cleaning it off or moving it, maybe lighting a candle and saying a prayer, maybe doing a meditation, maybe reading out your goal list, or, looking at your vision board, or things like that. So breaking free to do more spiritual stuff. And when Uranus is going through your 12th, which it has been going through for years, it's really good to work with different spiritual modalities or tools. And that could be like tarot, angel cards, divination cards, pendulum, runes, I Ching, all of these types of things can help you get the bigger messages or themes that are going on in your life. So these are some of the things that would be really good for you to work on at this time. Now, Venus at its critical degree is in your house of relationships, and so that could mean that somebody is coming in like a teacher. Sagittarius rules teaching, and so maybe it's a course you're taking, maybe it is a one-on-one connection where you're learning from somebody. So, but this might be that chance to connect with this person. When it comes to relationships, you're really doing extraordinary energy, and past this 2-week period, because the North Node is in your sign and it's going to be here, I believe, till the end of the year. I should have looked it up, but I didn't. But I think till the end of the year. It's right on your ascendant-descendant line, and this means that you have this opportunity to take everything you've learned about relationships and really apply that to finding somebody for a friendship, collaboration, or a romantic partnership. Additionally, Mercury is making a trine to Jupiter, and so this is a time where you might have spotted somebody that you really like and you wanted to make a connection, and now you can. Or that the person you're interested in finally texts you back. So such a tough word. I wish we'd come up with a different word for texting, because it's hard to make it plural. But this is where, what am I trying to say? This is where a communication that you've done in the past may be responded to, because now Mercury is forward and moving at a good speed. When it comes to your home life, you're pulling energy from that Mercury, which is in your house of fertility, children, and creativity. It is about to leave this house, so there might be some energy that you are, maybe just spending a lot of time with the kids, or maybe you're making some efforts in the area of fertility. This could also mean that you are bringing in a pet, because now we treat our pets kind of like little people. I know I do. And your traditional personal house of pets is full. So if you've been thinking about getting a pet, then this could be the time to do it. And on a side note, I have a friend who wrote an amazing book on pet agreements, and these are the spiritual agreements that we make with our pets, and I will put a link in the description box. If you're thinking about getting a pet or you have a pet, I really recommend that you check this out. So when it comes to your money, you are pulling money from that moon in your house of work and routines and processes, making that opposition to Uranus. And so this means that there's either just a direct block to your process, that someone is saying that, whatever app you use, it's not going to work anymore, or your process is no longer acceptable, or there's something that is a direct block and it's asking you to make a change. But then also remember, this is that Scorpio new moon, and so something psychological is going on, and that is that maybe it's necessary for you to stop and get a message from the universe about your money. And so we talked last time, I think it was on the full moon, about asking good questions, and so I'm going to go back to that for you now, which is, if you're asking yourself a poor question, that would be, why is there never any money in my bank account, or why am I always overdrawn? Then your brain has nothing of benefit to work on. But if you ask yourself a positive question, something like, how can I make an extra $200 today? Then your brain is working on something that can be helpful. And maybe this is a psychological change that can give you that ability to break free. When it comes to your money from investments, and by this we mean traditional investments like stocks and bonds, or stuff your grandpa would have done, or a family business or your own business, the moon is making a square to Saturn. So you are going to likely receive more money than usual. And that's generally because you're leaning in. The moon is in your house of work and it's making a square. And so there's the customer is there, and you are going to go after that customer. And so there's the energy that it's because the energy that you're expending that is causing more money to flow into your account. But this is good. We always like to see an aspect, because that means that the money out there can get to you. And so that's what we're looking for. When it comes to money from career, we are not seeing an aspect between Moon and Mars. And and you can see they're in the same sign and they're in the same house. So I feel like it's a promise that you're getting, but not an actual raise. And so maybe you're looking for a new job, or maybe you're just talking to your manager. And I think that they're just, because we're so close to the end of the year, maybe they're just kicking the can down the road and saying we'll talk again in January or something like that. So it seems like it's there and you're trying to grasp it, but it's not actually, there's nothing to take hold of, because there's just too much distance right now between the Mars and the moon is just making that distance more as we speak. When it comes to risky investments, and these are the things that are highly leveraged or highly unusual investments, then you are doing the moon making a semi-square to Venus. And this is so a semi-square is already a bit on the irritating side. And this is of the two types of semi-squares, this is the more irritating one. So that means you have to sit down and do something you don't want to do. And that could be going through prospectuses, or sitting down and watching the videos of how to do this type of investment, or to sit down with somebody and negotiate for the terms you actually want, rather than just, as signing what they say is a boilerplate agreement. So a lot of this is just figuring out what you don't want to do and then leaning in and doing that. And that's where you can make some money. And I guess I kind of skipped, I buried the lead there, because this is still an aspect, and an aspect does mean that you can make more money than usual, but it comes with this little catch. Okay, Cancer natives, you guys are doing this new moon in your house of creativity, children, fertility, pleasure, romance, and it's making an opposition to that Uranus, which says you need to be thinking about these things differently. Now, we have talked about in the opening about that this Uranus aspect, we've been doing Uranus aspects for 3 months now. This one's the most psychological of it. So it's possible that you have changed something externally already, but now you need to change something internally. And that can be a belief, a standard, it's just what you consider a truth or part of the story you tell yourself. Some of that has to change to free yourself. And so maybe that is about your attitude about children, or your attitude about having kids, or your attitude about romance, or your attitude about risk taking, because I should have said this is the house of money from risky investments. And so there is something that needs to shift. Now, the Uranus is sitting up in your 11th house, which means that where you can get the idea of what to shift is within the community, or within your friends, or, you click on a YouTube video and somebody gives you an idea of a totally different way of thinking about something, and that causes the shift. And so exploring very different ideas can help. And this takes me back. I was just talking when I was doing the Taurus part of this, I was just thinking about this, how last time we talked about asking yourself some good questions. So the question for you would be, what would it look like if I did the opposite of what I normally do for a couple of days? And so asking yourself that question gets yourself to think about doing something very, very different. And that's where you have the breakthrough. Now, at the same time, Venus is at that critical degree right on that horizon for you. So it's just about to pop into your house of relationships. So it's just saying a little bit more work, just work on yourself a little bit, get your plan together, or finish up some projects or things like that, and then you'll be ready to connect with others. When it comes to relationships, I already said that Venus is just about ready to hatch there. So that means that we can't see it yet, but that energy, once it moves into a new sign, then it's going to be visible. At the same time, the moon is making a square to Saturn, so relationship energy is very, very strong right now. And that is for love relationships, partnerships, business collaborations, and things like that. Especially love relationships, romantic types, because that square energy is coming from your house of pleasure and romance. And so that's, if you've been waiting to, get your online profile done or something like that, this is the time to do it. You want to move forward on these things, plant the seed, even if this is not very comfortable. Because it's a square, it's also possible that someone's going to come into your life and try to push their way in. And that could be that your family says they have somebody that they want you to meet, or some stranger says, hey, let's have coffee. And so, coffee's usually pretty safe. And so you could go forward. When it comes to home and family, you are pulling energy from that Venus at that critical degree. And so that means that you're probably trying to finish up something during new moon energy when we really want to start something. So there is this maybe impatience you have to, finish some renovations on the house, or finish up a move, or to just have, everybody settle into whatever routines, like school or something like that. So you have this kind of competing energy where you're ready to start something new, but you haven't quite finished the old. And so you just get that finished up, and then things will be good. So when it comes to your money, you're pulling money from the sun, which is in your house of risky investments and, adventure and taking a chance and all of that. So we do have some very strong interest right now for you to do something that is unconventional, highly leveraged, or, just different. So there's a really strong temptation to do that. The energy still, it's, because there is this psychological component, it is first to start by looking within and actually doing a risk tolerance test for yourself to see, because everybody has different risk tolerance. If you are a person who leans towards safety and security and stability, then even if you're doing this types of risky investment, you want to do the safest one possible. You want to do the most stable, the most conventional of the unconventional investments. And if you are a bit of a cowboy and you're just throwing caution to the wind, you got to ask yourself from this psychological perspective, has this worked in the past? Is this the way to go? Or should you be doing something different? So when it comes to money from traditional investments or your own business, this is the third month in a row for a new moon where you've been doing an aspect. So again, you're showing really strong ability to perform in, making more money in your business or capitalizing on some investments because the sun is making the opposition now to Uranus. So this is the time, if you haven't really capitalized on this, and by that I mean, like if you've planted seeds for a big harvest, this is the time when you would harvest. If you have not planted seeds, then you're just out foraging, which you can still, get a little basket full of, like greens and some berries and things like that. But you're foraging, so it's not going to be as big of a harvest. That's why it's so important to plant seeds, especially in times where you're not showing an aspect. And so that when you do show an aspect, you can have a big harvest. So this energy is really exceptional right now for bringing in more money than usual. When it comes to money derived from your career, like getting a raise or getting a better position, the Sun is making a semi-square to Venus, and it's of the two types of semi-squares, this is the least comfortable type. And so you can absolutely make more money this time, but you have to do something that is outside your comfort zone. And being that Venus is in your house of work, this would probably be doing work that you don't enjoy, or you're working a lot of hours to get something done right on the deadline. And so there's a hurdle to jump, but once you do, you can make more money. So when it comes to risky investments, and these are the things that are highly leveraged or take a lot of time, energy, or money to get going. So you have a full house, and we were talking already about changing something internally to make more profits. But you're not showing the profits over this 2-week period because the sun is not making an aspect with Mars. And worse, they are getting farther apart. So they're both in the house. So that gives you the idea that the profits are there, but it's hard to grab those profits at this time because those two planets aren't talking to each other and they're getting farther away as we speak. And so that does mean that you want to be cautious when you're doing your investment. Of course you want to be cautious anyway. I don't have to tell you that. Please be cautious when you're doing these things. And that's, I know I err on the side of caution, but please. But this does say that you look like you're very interested in these more unconventional investments, but you're not showing the profits over this 2-week period. Okay, Leo natives, you guys are doing this new moon in your house of home, family, and foundations, and then it is opposing that Chiron up in career and reputation. And so when we're looking at what's being highlighted, it is asking you to consider that things that happened in your upbringing or ideas or concepts that you got, no matter how you got them, they need to possibly be challenged at this time. And this means that when you do, you could have a breakthrough in your vocation, breakthrough in your current job, find a new position or things like that. So, and of course, some of the obvious things would be, are you just doing this profession because that would please your parents? Or is it that this is something that's been passed down and, from generation to generation, and you would like to do something else? But it also could mean that just as your basic foundation, you don't have the confidence to go and pursue what it is that you want to do. So now this is lighting this up and saying you can transform this, that you can change it into something different, because foundational ideas are just that foundation, that building block from which you're going to build everything else. And so if you change the foundation, of course, the finished product's going to look very different. And I think that sometimes, especially with this fixed energy, people are going to think, wow, well, then I got to start over and start from scratch. But when a person is building something, say they are building houses and they are going to do the next house with a different foundation, they still bring with them all the experience, all the resources, all of that from the previous houses that they built. So it's not like you're starting absolutely from scratch. And then we do have the idea of, as you do new things, we get that hit from Uranus plus that Venus, which is in your house of risk-taking and adventure and romance. And that says, look, if you do this, if you get out of your comfort zone, you're going to have so many more exciting things to do. So, that brings all of the interest and variety into your life. When we look at specifically your relationships, you are doing some very good energy because the sun is making that opposition to Uranus, so you are doing an aspect. Plus, Venus is still in your house of romance, so we have that going for you. Now, Venus is at that critical degree, so maybe it's time to step forward and say yes to the date or ask someone out, or get your profile online. Saturn and Jupiter are going through your house of relationships. Saturn's going to be there for a while, and Saturn really helps you find a solid relationship, something that's going to last. And then Jupiter brings you many opportunities. Jupiter is only going to be there, I believe, till the end of the year, so you have a little bit of time, but most of this energy that we're talking about is for the next 2 weeks. So we already talked about foundations, but when we look at home and family, you're pulling energy from Pluto as well as that Mars that is in that house. And so that means that some sort of transformation or change is going on in the home itself. So maybe you're doing some renovations, or maybe somebody is moving in or moving out. Maybe you've decided to do a big declutter and change things up that way, or you're just going to, like you have 2 bedrooms and you're going to change bedrooms. And so some sort of change helps disrupt the status quo, and that's really what's necessary over this next 2 weeks. When it comes to your money, you're pulling money from that Mercury, which is now moving forward. It's out of its shadow and it's at full speed. The interesting part about this is that Mercury is about to cross your IC right at the base of your chart. And this usually signals some sort of ending. Now, we're doing, of course, new moon energy, which is some sort of beginning. So it's something like something's finishing and then something's starting. And so you might be finishing up a big project at work, or maybe you are leaving a position, so you're finishing up things there and starting the new position. But it also says to be looking at what you can start, and if you're going to start something new, what you can finish. Now, when it comes to traditional investments, and these would be things like stocks and bonds, or when we're looking at business income or income from a family business, Mercury is not making an aspect to Neptune at this time. So we have you maybe in this process of this transition at work, maybe going from one thing to another, but not necessarily receiving the profits from that yet. So it's more like you're in process when it comes to the profits. And so I think that the profits will appear outside of this 2-week period. But in the meantime, this is just moving ahead at your usual speed. Yeah, a little tongue-tied today. Thank you for being so patient, you guys. So moving ahead at a normal pace, but mostly looking at what you're really finishing, what can be let go of. Like maybe that's just even getting paper off of your desk and into a file or off to the next person. Now, when it comes to money derived from career, the energy is much better. The North Node is still going through this house. Plus, we're looking at Mercury, which is now moving forward. And it is crossing that IC, which does say that there is something that is coming to a completion. And so that can mean that you are transferring into a different position or getting more authority, and this could lead to more money. It also, you have such good energy here for getting a new job, and so that's what could be happening, and then you get the money from that. Hopefully you're negotiating your salary, and so that you can make more money. When it comes to risky investments, and these are the things that take a lot of time, energy, or money to get going, they're usually highly leveraged and unusual. You are doing some very good energy because Mercury is making a trine to Jupiter, plus the Venus is still in that house. But Venus is at a critical degree, so there is a huge desire to leap in, like to push all your chips into the center, to say, I don't care what's going to happen, I just need to be in this. And the trine also makes that quite easy. And so while you do show the potential for profits, you do need to be careful because you don't want to be using funds that you're going to need later for this category, because money that you put into a risky investment is generally something you can't get out easily. That was LaRue. He missed the table. So anyway, so there he is. Okay, now he's settled. Okay. So when you are considering any sort of risky investments at this time, make sure that this is really money that you don't need for something else. It's a small percentage of what you have, and because you are taking a chance. Hi, darling. Okay, Virgo natives, you guys are doing this new moon in your house of thinking process, communication, contracts, agreements, and it is opposing that Uranus in your house of knowledge, ethics, travel, foreign things, legal matters. So some of what we're seeing here is that you are rethinking things. You are saying, what kind of contracts have I gotten myself into, and are you saying that you're stuck at this point and that you need to rethink things? Or is it that you are saying that you're about to sign a contract, and is this a good idea because it is going to tie your hands in some way? It's also possible that this is about school, and so thinking about going back to school, and at that point then maybe you're tied up for a semester or a year or 4 years or something like that. So looking at how you are making decisions or signing a contract that is going to tie you up. Now, this Uranus is also in your house of travel, so it may be that you are looking for some big change, but you are, that a big change may make you nervous to do so. I mean, of course it would. And so you might be looking at shifting some core beliefs that you have so that you can, go out on the road, do some sort of nomadic entrepreneurship, or maybe go teach English in another country, or move across the country, away from family, or move back towards family. Like all of these different things, it takes this sort of newness and a sense of adventure inside of you. When it comes to relationships, you're not doing an aspect now with the Mercury and Neptune, which is interesting. So it feels kind of like you have already talked to friends and family and you've gotten all of their opinions, and now the decision's back in your court. So perhaps this means that you need to sit down in prayer or meditation, or maybe you have to pull out your pros and cons list and look things over. It's that things are now back to you because you are the final decision maker. Now, that doesn't mean that there's not people around, but it does mean that you seem to be quite focused on your own things right now, and so maybe they're knocking on your door, maybe they're trying to contact you, but you're not necessarily noticing. When it comes to home and family, you're pulling energy from that Jupiter as well as that Venus at 29 degrees of Sagittarius, which is, of course, ruled by that Jupiter. And so there's a strong energy of that something is finishing up at home, and perhaps that means that you are finishing something at the house itself, or maybe you are completing a time at a certain location and now you're just moving. But I think this is more that you are looking at family attitudes and deciding what you're going to keep and what you're not. So because as you are out in the world, you're gathering new information, you're getting new ideas, and the important thing is to take those new ideas and see how they meld with the ideas of your upbringing, and that's how we grow. So when we look at your money, you are pulling money from that Venus at 29 degrees of Sagittarius. And so there's quite a focus on making money now, and almost a cavalier or cowboy sort of attitude of, I'm really going to go for it. I'm going to jump into something. It's in the house of real estate right now, and that could be rental properties or some derivative of real estate investing, and then immediately it goes into your house of risky investments. And so it does look like you're kind of at the poker table right now and ready to push chips into the center. And I do want to caution you to not go overboard in this area. The 29 energy can feel like you're at the Olympics, like you have to give it your all, but it's going to very quickly shift into very conservative Capricorn, and then you could regret what you have done. So really, try not to go overboard in this area. When we look at your money from traditional investments, like buying Apple stock or buying bonds or mutual funds, even conservative ETFs, like non-leveraged ETFs, also a family business or your own business, Venus is making an out-of-sign sextile to Mars. And so while things may not be obvious, opportunities may not be really clear, they are there. With the sextile, it does say that you need to take the first action and then the opportunity appears. So that means contacting somebody who has expressed some interest in your products or services, or looking up the information that you have. Maybe the application gives you trouble and you have to call the broker and say, how do I do this? So you have to take some action, and when you do, then you have the potential to make more money. When it comes to money derived from career, there is no aspect between Venus and the moon. And so right now, everything is very much status quo, which is really interesting because I think we've only had like one other sign that is doing an aspect. So it looks like basically across the board that companies and corporations are not really budging when it comes to negotiating for raises or negotiating actually when you're doing your initial salary negotiation. So you need to be aware that they're a little intractable right now, and so that's not a place to bother putting your energy, since you do show potential for maybe a side business of your own or some passive income sources. Then you'd want to put your attention there. When it comes to risky investments, we already talked a little bit about that Venus and what that was doing, that it's about to go into that house. Right now, Venus is not making an aspect with Saturn, and so that means that it's difficult for you to collect or secure profits at this time for your risky investment. And those could be any long-term investment that you're doing. That could be writing a novel, putting together an album, or doing your YouTube channel or something like that. So that says to just continue your process, because this energy will line up in the future. It's saying that it's hard for you to take profits at this time. Okay, Libra natives, you guys are doing this new moon in your house of money and possessions and your sense of self and worthiness when it comes to earning capacity. And it is opposing that Uranus in the house of resources from other people, as well as debt and investments and things like that. So the change, the shift that is necessary, this place where you feel like you're stuck or blocked, is in your basic attitudes about money making. And so this is that perhaps you feel you have an upper limit of what a person can make or should make, or that you maybe say for some reason, I don't deserve to make more. Maybe you're being awfully hard on yourself and feeling you're not working hard enough, or that you're feeling that because you didn't, get a certain type of degree or go to a certain type of college that you don't deserve. So, and this is something that is wholly within you, not part of the outside world. And so this is the thing to change. And because it's in a fixed sign, it is hard to change. So you have to really consciously work at it. But now you have the sun, moon, and Mars there helping you work on this. Now, we also see that Venus at 29 Sag is in your house of communication. And so one of the things you may consider is doing some journaling about this, and to look at maybe doing affirmations or something that's verbal. You could also look at doing something that's more physical about it, like tapping, or perhaps, having somebody, do some muscle testing with you, something where you're getting some sort of feedback about how your progress is when you are approaching, inner blocks, limiting beliefs and things like that. When it comes to relationships, you are doing some good energy because Venus is making an out of sign sextile to Mars. It took me a bit to get that out. So what does that mean? That means that when it comes to new friendships, connections, business partnerships, and a love relationship, it's not so obvious. It is somebody who maybe you hadn't considered in the past. Maybe you don't think that they're your type, or that they are the type that would do this sort of thing. So, and because it's a sextile, it means that the beginning of this needs to be from you. So you have to initiate some sort of action. That is, that you ask them to coffee, you suggest something, and then see where it goes. So this is usable and energy because a sextile is really nice, but being out of sign, it just takes a little bit more work to find where it is and then to initiate. When it comes to home and family, you are pulling energy from that Saturn, which we have not talked about much in this whole video because it's not a big player this time. But Saturn is moving to make that last square of this year to that Uranus. So, and I actually have a video on that specific thing, so I'll link that in the description. But what Saturn is about is Saturn is a structure. Saturn is, either a set of ideas that you follow like a ritual, or it's an actual structure of things, that has boundaries. And here comes Uranus, which is kind of like the dynamite that blows that up. And then from the pieces, you rebuild something better. And so that's the energy that we're seeing, but it's not quite here yet. So it's like we can hear the ticking of the time bomb, but it hasn't happened. So if you are thinking to yourself, there's not going to be changes in my home, this is status quo, nothing, I have this place and I'm going to keep this place and nothing's going to change. You do need to be aware that, Uranus is coming and it could make a significant change in something about your living arrangements. So you want to be aware of that. When it comes to your money, you are pulling money from the Pluto in the 4th house, as well as Mars in your house of money. And that is really, really good. That means that you are pulling money from the source. And as you focus on money, as you do a budget, as you become aware of your spending, as you look up investments and things like that, more opportunities come to you. So you have this is probably one of the best times you have all year for starting new things, planting seeds for a later harvest. And that includes, looking at things where you can create passive income sources or your own side business. So this is a time to be doing this. Now, because the moon and the sun are there also, you may be tempted to want to quickly do something, which would mean that you are plunking down money to then eventually make money. And here's where I would say it's probably not necessary. If you stop for a moment and see how much of this you can figure out yourself, and how much, in the endless universe that is YouTube, how many free videos there are on whatever it is you want to do, before you plunk down a bunch of money to do something, see if you can't exhaust that resource. And that way, you are managing your money well, the universe loves that, and you might be able to get everything off the ground without spending a lot, yourself. When it comes to money from traditional investments like stocks and bonds, or your own business or a family business, Venus is making a semi-sextile to Pluto and that out of sign sextile to Mars. So you have really good energy for making money more money over the next 2 weeks. A semi-sextile is a bit irritating, and so this may say, because Pluto is in the 4th house, that somebody in your family thinks that you're barking up the wrong tree. You're wanting to sell and they say hold, or you want to hold and they say sell. I think I got that backwards, but you know what I mean. So you might be trying to go against some family principles as you do this, but this is a time where if you've done your research, you've looked at the upside and the downside, and you're making a decision, based on a combination of intuition as well as the data, then you can confidently move forward. When it comes to money derived from career, you're not doing an aspect with the Sun or Mars or Pluto, and you're kind of in the majority here because very few people are. So we're seeing not a lot of increases in salary, or bonuses or ability to negotiate a higher salary at this time. The next 2 weeks, for some reason, we're seeing a lot of reticence on the part of companies for giving more money. So, and I'm not sure why that is over this 2-week period, but we're seeing very few people, you included, not having the ability to gain more than the usual amount of money for your money derived from a regular job. When it comes to risky investments, and these are the things that are highly leveraged, that border on gambling or are actual gambling, or things that take an awful lot of time and effort to get going. So Pluto's not making an aspect to Uranus, but Mars, the co-ruler of your 2nd house, is making an aspect to the co-ruler of your house of money derived from risky investments. Goodness, I don't know if I should start that over. So the bottom line is, from a derivative placement, you do have an opportunity. So it's not like a clear shot, but it is something where through negotiation or some effort on your part, or, through really understanding what you're getting into, you can make some good money. On the other hand, it may be easier for you just to stay status quo, keep working on things, and perhaps not try to cash in at this time. Okay, Scorpio natives, this is your new moon, and this means that this is the start of your 12-month cycle. And so over the next 2 weeks, you want to do as many new things as possible. This is a time to plant new seeds, and so that you can get this huge harvest later. And this would be planting seeds in any area that you're looking for. If you're looking for friendships, love relationships, if you're looking for financial gain or things like that, you just want to plant the seeds. And maybe that starts with just having an overall list of what it is that you're looking for, and then you can go step by step, maybe doing a visualization, perhaps getting with a friend as an accountability partner, maybe coming up with the first couple of steps for each of your big goals so that you can start small and just take a step forward. But that would be very useful here. We also have the Mars in Scorpio, and so that's giving you extra energy to do this. And so that's one of the things that is happening now with the Uranus in that house of relationships. It's amazing how many people are going to tell you should do the opposite of what you're thinking. And so the thing that you're kind of breaking free from here is deciding whether to take the advice of other people or to follow what you're wanting to do. So this might be that you say, all right, I'm going to write my novel. And then somebody pops up and says, you know what, you should just, put your head down and continue working where you're working and get to some milestone. And, or you are saying, you know what, I'm going to be single. And that's when somebody pops up and says, hey, I do want a relationship with you. And so this is what gets challenged. But remember, the Scorpio part is the psychological part, and the internal part, which is your wheelhouse. You know about this, especially in other people. And so you just want to turn your eyes toward yourself to say, where am I blocking myself? Where am I stopping myself because somebody else is telling me the opposite, that I should do, something different? So at the same time, Venus is at that critical degree going through your house of money. And so oftentimes we get caught up in this idea that if we don't have enough resources, and that can be not just money, but time or energy, that we put a stop to things. But as many people will tell us over and over, that especially when it comes to energy or time, that's just a matter of priorities and allocating the resources that we have to a specific project. So when it comes to money, there's so many hacks these days where you can find ways to do a business less expensively, without all the bells and whistles. And of course, there's exceptions to that rule. Like if you're, inventing a medical device, you might need a whole manufacturing company or something like that. But for the most part, there's so many businesses and so many ways to get what you need in the area of resources that oftentimes it's just more the psychological things that are holding us back. And with your chart this time, every time you are held back, someone is going to pop up and confirm that. And they're going to say something to tell you to go, whoa, don't go any farther, and recognize it's not them. That's just a reflection of what's going on inside of you. So, as you might have surmised, relationships are looking pretty good here because you are at least meeting people, even if they're telling you the opposite sometimes of what you want to hear. This chart is about meeting people that are different than your normal person that you hang out with, not necessarily your type, not necessarily what you were expecting, or they are a person who has an unusual amount of candor, that they're going to be very honest with you. Sorry, I had that picture of the giant bird swooping in. That's a condor. Yes. Okay. Sorry. All right. So when it comes to relationships, we see that Venus is making the semi-sextile to Pluto and is making that out-of-sign sextile to Mars. So really good relationship energy if that's what you're looking for. When it comes to home and family, that energy is being pulled from that Uranus, which figures so prominently in this chart. And so that means the most likely people who are going to stand up and be obstacles are family members. And this is just to remind you that they are your mirror. So the things that irritate you about them, you're doing, that's something inside of you, but also they may voice the different things that is deep inside of you that you didn't realize. So they may bring up some reasons that you shouldn't move forward, and you should just look at each one as though those are reasons that you have yourself, and then find solutions for those. When it comes to your money, you are pulling money from that Jupiter, which rules that Venus in that critical degree, which is in your house of money. And when Venus is in your house of money at a critical degree, you may feel like spending. You might be thinking to buy some big ticket item or invest in a course or, pay for Harvard in one shot. It is important that you recognize that this desire that you have is going to be fleeting, because this Venus is going to change signs, and then suddenly you're left with whatever it is you purchased, but you may not feel like at that point that it was worth it. So pause during these 2 weeks to make sure that what you want to purchase is something that's really going to be useful to you. Now, this Venus works the other direction too, and that means someone may come and spend some money on you. So if you have expensive products or services that you offer, those are the things to push right now, because you're more likely to get the big roller, the high spender, to come in at this time. When it comes to money from your business, a family business, or traditional investments, Mercury is making a trine to Jupiter, so you have real opportunities this time to gain profits, to gain territory, to really have a big payday. So this is where I would suggest that you want to lean in and really figure out, what it is that you want, because it's good energy. Of course, when we look at money derived from career, you're doing the same aspect. However, when you have that Mercury that's right on the horizon like it is, when you're doing your own business and you have the ability to promote yourself, then it's a little easier for you to do. This says that you're going to have to do that if you have a job as well, that your boss isn't necessarily going to come to you and say, here's your reward for doing such a good job. So if you just start that process rolling, you could gain more hours, more money per hour, a bigger salary, a better bonus, all of those things. But if you're going to need to start it rolling, and when you do, you could get very good results. Now, the weak spot is money from risky investments, because Mercury is not making an aspect to Neptune. So you want to be extra cautious when you're doing things like derivatives, high leveraged investments, or really exotic things. Or if you are working on some long-term project, then you just want to just keep working on it. Don't try to cash it in at this time because the aspect's not lining up. Okay, Sagittarius natives, you guys are doing this new moon in your house of intuition, psychic ability, and your shadow self, and it is sitting opposing that Uranus in your house of routines and habits. And so this is about looking at possibly bringing more spiritual practices into your daily life and disrupting your daily life in some way so that you can break free. So now it can be that your days are so booked and so busy that you come to the end of the week and you find that you haven't done any meditation. Maybe you haven't taken care of your physical self. Maybe you have, rushed through and not even got to, look at the moon. And so, of course, it's a new moon, so there's no moon out there, but you know what I mean. And so this is where you take your schedule and you break it apart and you try to find some way to incorporate maybe seamlessly the spiritual practices that you want to do. And maybe that's just getting up in the morning and pulling a single tarot card that kind of speaks to the day. Or maybe this is that you're doing a 30-second loving kindness meditation where you send out loving kindness energy to others. And that has been shown to really make you feel great. So, and of course, the other people get the blessings that you're sending. So this is really good energy for breaking through blocks in your routine, blocks where you feel like your day gets hijacked. Now, it's also quite possible with this new moon that you're going to have important dreams or visions, that you are going to be more interested in your psychic ability. And when you're doing that inner work, that you are shining a light on your shadow self. And so there's a lot here about self-acceptance. The Venus in the critical degree is going through your first house, and we'll go into your second house. So first house is about confidence, second house about self-esteem. So Venus is straddling those two. And so this is about knowing, that every day we get to, reinvent ourselves. If you're not happy with your behavior from the past, then strive to be a better person today. And this is what this Venus is talking about. When it comes to relationships, you're doing some good energy because Mercury is making a trine to Jupiter. And so you do have some big opportunities when it comes to relationships, not to mention that the North Node, South Node are straddling the ascendant-descendant line. So that can bring people in from past lives or people who are spiritually connected to you. Now, the challenging thing is you're a little bit hidden because the sun and moon are in your 12th house. And so this means that you do have to step out into the light to have people see you. And that might mean going out and doing some things, or, phoning up a few friends you already have and just say, hey, I'm just checking in. So, and then they say, oh, I know somebody you should go out with, etc. When it comes to home and family, you are pulling energy from that Neptune and that Jupiter. And these two planets we haven't talked about that much in this whole configuration because they're just not that prominent, especially the Neptune. And so things at home are pretty quiet. Now, there is possibly a little activity going on in the neighborhood, but Again, you seem to be working on yourself, which is what you're supposed to be doing right now, or you're working behind the scenes, and so things going on in the neighborhood you might be not paying much attention to, or you're not interacting so much. So I see things as being pretty quiet at home right now. And of course, for those Sagittarius natives who say it's not quiet because you're packing to move somewhere, remember you're doing stuff behind the scenes when you're doing that. So that's how that would be, that's why it's showing up in the chart as behind the scenes. When it comes to your money, you're pulling money from that Saturn, which we have not spoken about because it's not figuring very strongly in this chart. However, Venus is right on that cusp, and it's at a critical degree. So you may have a big desire to spend money right now, and probably for very good reasons, because it's in Sagittarius and that has good reasons. So but as Venus goes into your second house, you may find that you are getting some small windfalls, money coming in, money opportunities, and they will be attached to some sort of work or responsibility, but generally that's how you make money anyway. And so I think that if you're thinking about doing some big spending right now, realize that you may get fairly frugal in the next couple of weeks. So you want to kind of weigh your decision before you jump in. Now, when it comes to money derived from your business, your family business, or from traditional investments, the moon is making a square to Saturn. And so therefore, there is huge opportunities to have something get bigger than you expect. And this is because the moon is in that viral house where if you allow something to be released, it comes back to you as being something sizable. So that means that this is a good time to maybe put out a new product or announce a new service, or to look at your investments and see what's showing a lot of activity. And by activity, in a traditional investment standpoint, that could be a price increase with a volume increase. And so that shows that more people are interested in it, and that can show you that you might be getting a sell signal from that or something like that. So, when it comes to decision making, you've been working on decision making for a long time because Saturn is going through your house of information. And so it's very important for you to hone your decision making, especially about, when to get into an investment, when to get out of an investment. And so, there's books about this. One of my favorites is listed in the description box, which is called How to Decide by Annie Duke. And so check that out. When it comes to money derived from career, Venus is not making an aspect to Saturn, and the sun and moon are in that 12th house. And so it is possibly that it's hard to reach your boss. It's hard to, make a case for yourself, or your boss is out on leave, or they're working remotely, or for some reason they're not seeing what you're producing. And so it's very difficult for you to ask for a raise right now. That said, you do show some sort of benefits coming because Venus will be entering your house of money, and it will stay there for about a month. And so we'll talk about this more when we talk about the full moon, which actually won't be a full moon. That's going to be a lunar eclipse. So yes, eclipses are important. So I can't wait to share that video. But you're going to see possible small wins, and that can be small amounts of money coming to you from your job. When it comes to risky investments and these other things that take a lot of time, energy, or money to get going, Mars is approaching a square to Saturn, so that's a very strong square. So there is something going on, something's brewing, you might be onto something, and so it is time to be looking at what you need to do to take a step forward, how the process is going. Of course, I want you to be cautious. Naturally, you have Saturn ruling your house of money, so you are generally cautious when it comes to money. But you also have Chiron there, which says that you have been burned in the past. And so you want to move, very slowly and judiciously, but you are doing some good energy for a windfall in this area. Okay, Capricorn natives, you guys are doing this new moon in your house of community friendships, technology, and the future. And it's sitting opposite that Uranus, where individuals, or maybe even your kids, are going to tell you, you should not go and do that, or you should not be thinking this way. Or so you may receive this opposition from, younger relatives, or somebody who is very close in your life, like a romantic partner. But it also is this real desire to be bold. And with the opposition to Uranus in that fifth house, it can mean that you want to do it yourself, where the new moon energy is saying do it as a community, do it with friends, or, with support from others. And so there can be this struggle between, wanting to be the pioneer and do it yourself, and that way you don't have people, complaining or, trying to guide you or things like that. So this is what you're weighing. Of course, with any opposition, it can go the other direction as well, and that would be an extreme desire to do it with other people, and yet the universe keeps asking you to do this on your own. And so that is that you've asked all your friends to start a business with you, or to, hike Kilimanjaro or something like that, and you can't find anybody to do this with. And so it may be time for you to strike out on your own and meet people along the way. Now, at the same time, you have Venus right on the horizon. So Venus is the rising star here, and that means that Venus-related things are very important right now. That could be money and relationships. So those are the things that you're looking for is, how can you receive something for what you're putting out? And what you're looking for is, love from others, as well as some sort of monetary compensation. Now, this Venus is at a critical degree, so you might be extremely frustrated that you haven't been getting this in the past. Venus is just about to go into your sign, and that is going to increase your magnetism and charisma. And so you're going to be going into a really great period. But right now, the energy for this 2 weeks can feel a little stressful. Now, that said, you're doing amazing relationship energy because the moon is making a square to Saturn. I forgot what I was going to say, but the moon's making a square to Saturn, and Venus is right there. So Venus is bringing you some really interesting opportunities when it comes to relationship, and then there is this feeling, this compelling reason to move forward. And so either the other person is feeling very much like they want to go out with you, so they're pursuing you, or you feel that way, and so you're pursuing them. And so you have a really good chance of getting together with an interesting person this time. When it comes to home and family, you're pulling energy from that Mars in your house of friendships, and so it's possible that you're inviting friends over, that you are off to see friends, and maybe that means you're traveling. So there's a lot of activities, especially around the community, and so this is maybe you're not at home as much anymore, or maybe you've got some guests coming in. Now, when it comes to your money, you're pulling money from that Uranus in your house of taking risks and creativity, and from that Saturn, which is your slow growth wealth aspect. And so there is definitely this energy that's consistent with you about taking some risks in general. And that doesn't necessarily mean automatically Bitcoin. That can be just, taking a creative project you have and risking by putting it out into the world. And the thing, of course, that you're risking is that people don't like it. And then if that's the case, then you pull it back in and you tweak it, you change it, and then you put it out again. And that can be the risk that we're seeing here. But the slow growth wealth aspect is where you take a portion of what you make, and even if it's a tiny portion, and you put that aside, and very, very slowly that grows into something substantial that starts to work for you. And that's the big lesson that you've been working on for some time. Now, everything's highlighted here right now because that Uranus figures so prominently in this chart. So that means that there are some big money opportunities here for you. That Saturn is ruled by that Uranus because Saturn is in Aquarius. And so we have all of your money stuff tied together here for some big opportunity. When we look at your money from traditional investments, your own business or a family business, the sun is making the opposition to Uranus, and it is exact. And so there is some opportunity right here for the taking. And that could mean you just need to call the client and say, do you want to sign? I guess they would more be a prospect than a client. Or that you are looking at your investments and see that they have gone up. And so maybe it's time to take some profits. Or maybe you're getting together with the family and saying, let's get this business off the ground. So there are some really big opportunities. I expect you to be making more money over this 2-week period than usual. When it comes to money derived from career, you have an extraordinary house because it is Mars, Moon, and Sun. And so this is some of the best energy you have had all year. Additionally, even though Uranus is not making an aspect with Pluto, the co-rulers, Mars and Saturn, are making a square. And so this is, and it's an approaching square. So this is, again, I have to say, this is probably some of the best energy you have had all year long. So it's time for you to ask for a raise, or if you're looking for a new job, to negotiate for a better salary, look for increasing your commission, landing big sales and things like that. You really show positive increases in this area. Now, when it comes to risky investments, and of course these include your NFTs and your Bitcoin and all these derivatives and highly leveraged things, you're doing an aspect, but it's not an easy one. Now, we do like to see an aspect because an aspect means that the money out there in the world can flow into your account. But this is a sesquiquadrate, and of the two types of sesquiquadrates, this is not the fun one. And so this is a very challenging aspect where you are way outside of your comfort zone. So if you're going to be rolling your dice about something, please make sure that you're doing the smallest investment you possibly can to do it. And so use this more for practice. You're going to have good aspects in the future. And so with an aspect like this, where it is so challenging, you're going to consider like making a tiny bet. And that, if this is something where you're putting out your artwork, you just put out one and you put it out to a select group of people and let them say, give you some feedback and tell you if it's too controversial or if it's too bland or, whatever. So, but if this is something in a highly volatile market, please consult with somebody who knows a lot about this before moving forward, and limit the size of your investment because this aspect is challenging. Okay, Aquarius natives, you guys are doing this new moon at the top of your chart in your house of career and reputation and status and all of those things. And it is sitting opposite that Uranus in your house of home, foundations, and upbringing. And so yours is probably the easiest to decipher, where it is saying that some sort of internal block that you're dealing with probably came from childhood or your foundation in some way. So that could be coming from a teacher or a friend, or it came from your parents. And this is the thing too that is in your way right now. This is the block. And this is where internally you maybe have been pushing against this for a long time, and you haven't found yet that it is giving way. And so this is where you want to basically go into your childhood memories and look at the events that happened to you and give yourself that aha moment. Oftentimes we can get past blocks by just forgiving ourselves for some part that we are blaming ourselves for, and that blame may be completely inappropriate. As a kid you probably didn't have a choice, but you may still blame yourself, or you may still feel unnecessarily cautious in an area because of something that happened in childhood that now as an adult you could totally handle. So this is where you go in, you look at the memory, and you forgive yourself to allow yourself to move forward. At the same time, we are seeing that Venus at 29 degrees, and that is that critical degree. And it's really interesting because it's leaving your house of friendships and it's going to go into your house of spirituality and psychic ability. So, but for this next 2 weeks, you're going to still feel that energy of the Venus at the critical degree, which means that Your friends can kind of be your mirror here. And so you might find that you have a lot of friends who have a similar issue, but it's easier to see in them than it is for you to see it in yourself. So think of the things that you would tell your friends to do and then go do those things. And when you do that, then you break free of the block. When it comes to relationships, you're doing some very strong energy because the sun is making an exact opposition to Uranus. And so that means that there are people that are popping up that maybe not exactly what you were expecting them to be. Maybe they look a little different than their picture on the dating site, or that you're on a blind date and they don't look like your type initially, but you really click. But there's really some great energy here for connecting with other people, especially for relationships, and that could include friendships as well as business partnerships. So you do want to kind of get out there if that all possible. The interesting thing here is because your chart is so heavily focused on career right now, and then at the same time home. There's not a lot that is on that side of the chart that is saying, go and connect with others. And so what you want to do is kind of make the effort to get out of the house a little bit, or to get online, or just to reach out to people that you want a potential connection with and say hi. When it comes to home and family, it's ruled by that Venus at the critical degree. And of course, Uranus is there doing that opposition to the new moon. So something big is going on at home. And that might be that you are moving, or that you are unpacking from a move. Perhaps there's some renovations going on in the house, or this can mean that something that was old that has been needing to be replaced finally breaks. And this might be something, because it's Sagittarius, this might be something dealing with something that heats something, because it's a fire sign. So that would be like the furnace or the stove or the fireplace or something. I don't know. I guess fireplaces can break. I don't know. Personal side note, I grew up in California where it's pretty warm, and so every Christmas my mother would set up a cardboard fireplace for us to pretend that we had a fireplace. When it comes to your money, you are pulling money from that Neptune as well as that Jupiter, and neither of these we've talked about a lot for this chart because they don't figure that prominently. But with this Neptune, you do need to remember that doing the spiritual component for you is very important. When you want money, always do a visualization or affirmations, or like do a pinch of herbs in your porridge in the morning, just to kind of tell the universe what you're looking for. This might mean that you're carrying a crystal with you, or you're lighting a candle, and in this case it would be like a metallic gold candle, would be for large sums of money. Or you might light a green candle for just general prosperity and growth. So that sort of thing, like adding in the spiritual component, whether that's prayer or meditation, that's what is part of the lesson that you're doing while Neptune is going through Pisces, and while Jupiter will soon be in Pisces, where you'll really need to double down on that. When it comes to money from traditional investments or from your business, you're making about the same as usual, as Mercury is not making an aspect to Neptune. And so this is not the focus for you this time. So just keep plugging along at what you're doing, take a buy and hold position, or, just in your business, maybe you're doing more back office work or things like that. There's a lot here that says publicity and marketing. So that could be the focus, that you're doing the marketing campaign now, but the customers haven't yet come in. And so for the next 2 weeks, you're making about the same as usual. Now, when it comes to money derived from career, Jupiter is making a semi-sextile to Neptune, and this is a long aspect, so you do have lots of opportunities now and coming up to make more money. But right now, the extraordinary energy that you're doing is Venus is at that critical degree in your house of money derived from career, Also, you have the Sun, Moon, and Mars in your career house. So this says you could be going for a promotion, a transfer that brings you more money and possibly more responsibility, as well as getting a new job. All of those things are very, very strong for you right now. Now, when it comes to risky investments, and these are the things that take a lot of time, energy, or money to get going, Mercury is not making an aspect with Neptune, and so you're not showing a lot of ability to really gain a windfall at this time. The interesting thing is the North Node, South Node are straddling those houses and that energy right now. I should say they're almost strangling that energy right now, because when those clear next year, and that will be in January sometime, then it's going to be actually easier for you to find windows of opportunity to make money. So right now, this is more about the learning curve. And that is, if you want to excel in some of these riskier investments, it's time for you to collect information, to learn more about it, to become as much of an expert as you can. Okay, Pisces natives, you guys are doing this new moon in your house of travel, philosophy, education, legal matters, belief systems, and rules. And it's sitting there opposing that Uranus in your house of information. And so this is where you have maybe, like code or standards or things like that, and they are getting challenged right now. And this could be almost like your dogma, your personal dogma, or your personal story is being challenged. And as you challenge it personally, because it's being challenged externally, but as you challenge it personally, you can have such a breakthrough, because your personal philosophy can be the thing that propels you forward or stops you. And that is, and again, this is something about your story, how you see the world, how you see yourself in the world, like who you are as a person and why you do the things that you do. And if you are then continually stopped by, repeatedly saying that you're not strong, or that you are easily distracted, or these sort of things, you can work on these things. You can change your story. So that's what we're seeing here. And this is to connect with a higher power in doing so. And that, this is already your wheelhouse. This is what you're good at, because Pisces or Pisces rising, you have the ability to go beyond the boundaries. And so this is where you tell the universe, God, angels, whoever you're speaking to, that you need some help. And then the help comes. And, I'm a big advocate. I think you need to ask for the help, and then it comes. It doesn't automatically come. So this is a time where you say, this is where I need the help, and then the help will arrive. Now, at the same time, we do see that Venus at 29 Sagittarius in your house of career, which is a much more practical matter. So we're talking about philosophy on one side and personal stories, but when it comes to your career, something is changing there. And that's either that you're changing jobs, or you're going into a new vocation, or the industry that you're in right now is going through a major change, or the company is going through a major change. And you're now on high alert to say that it might be time for you to do something different. So it's, stop. I know you're busy and all that, but stop for a moment. Ask yourself, what's changing in your industry? What's changing in your business? And is this going to be the right place for you in the future? When it comes to relationships, Mercury's not making an aspect to Neptune. And I think this is also supported by the idea that there's so much energy here about philosophy and inner work and things like that's your focus. So if you are looking for love, you might want to just give this 2 weeks a little bit of a break. If you're already, pursuing somebody, like you're dating and all that, if they don't have time to see you, or if you don't have time to see them, just chalk that up to not lining up in the aspects, and they will line up in the future. When it comes to home and family, you're pulling energy from that Mercury, which is in your house of resources from others. So it might be that you're getting some sort of mortgage refinance, or you're signing a contract to get an apartment or something like that. So there's a lot of kind of legal and financial energy around home and family right now. And so if nothing else, if those things don't apply, consider getting with some maybe siblings or cousins and starting a business. Now, when it comes to your money, you're pulling energy from that Mars in the 9th house. And so this is looking at money from some sort of education. So that could be teaching, writing, publishing, or perhaps you are doing something that's import-export, where you are going overseas to get what you need. And maybe that is also that you're outsourcing some of the processes of your business, that people are answering your phones for you, or maybe they're doing your website or something like that. This is your opportunity also to expand your different money sources, and this is through knowledge. So you might be taking some classes or doing a lot of YouTube videos on how to do different types of investments or different aspects of, like ways to make money. There's all those little videos about, 15 ways to make $100 a day or something like that. When it comes to money from traditional investments or from your own business or a family business, Venus is making an out of sign sextile to Mars. And so it's not obvious where the profits is, but it's there. And it means that you need to take the initial action. And so let's say this is something where you have a prospect and you don't really feel that they're very interested, but you send one more email and then suddenly they buy your entire package. Or this might be that one of your products that doesn't sell very well now, you highlight that product and suddenly it becomes your bestseller. So it's something that is a little bit unexpected or not obvious, and if you take an initial action, then you get the profits. When it comes to money derived from career, you do have a very strong house because Saturn is making a square to Mars, and this is it's getting closer. Mars is moving towards this energy, and so what we see is a big opportunity for you to make more money in your job. Now, it's interesting because what it could be is that there might be some changes going on in your industry or in your company, and now they want to hold on to you because they're afraid you're going to jump ship, and so they're willing to give you more money. And if that makes sense for you, then you could take that and get that extra money while you are maybe studying for a new vocation or looking around for something else. Now, the Saturn is in your hidden house, and that represents your boss or your supervisor, and so you will have to find them. You'll have to find them and say, let's have a meeting, and tell them what you've been working on, and that's when they say, oh yes, I've been thinking about giving you a raise all this time, and now that you've brought this up, I'm going to go forward and do this. Now, when it comes to risky investments, and these are the things that take a lot of time, energy, or money to get going, some sort of leveraged derivative, or they border on gambling, or they are actually gambling, the moon's not making an aspect with Mars. They are in the same sign, yes, but they are getting farther and farther apart. And so this is that if you have been working on something like this, you still have a lot of work to go. Or if you have been learning about this, you might open some video up and find that you have so much more to learn. So this is to slow down and make sure that you have assimilated all the information that you need. If you have a contract in front of you, go slow on it. You've got this new moon in your house of contracts, and so that's quite possible where you're at in the process. So go very slow, negotiate the points that you want to negotiate, and see if you can get out of this 2-week period when potentially this could line up in the future. And that's it. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. If you haven't already, please subscribe and stay tuned because LaRue wants to say hi.